possibly the most positive human being I've ever met in my entire life. Consistently positive human being I've ever met in my entire life. Mr. Colman Power, welcome to the Prymal podcast.
Thanks so much for having me.
Thank you very much for being here. So, first of all, I must say I'm sitting here with dirt in my fingernails because we've just spent the last 3 hours in my garden.
There's dirt in your face as well.
Is there actually dirt in my face?
No, it's not. No, just joking.
And he's off, ladies and gentlemen. Would you like to tell people what we've been doing the last 3 hours?
We've literally been setting up Dan with his own fruits and vegetables right outside his back door.
Right outside my back door. I'll give you a bit of context. The house that we live in now, the previous owner was an enthusiast, a gardening and growing enthusiast. And there's a little greenhouse out there. There's some raised beds, a beautiful mature garden. And you kindly reached out to me and offered to educate me, to teach me, to help me live off the land. And I happen to have this beautiful facility there available to me, which is lovely. And we spent the last 3 hours kind of going out and we've actually done a video on it, which probably will already be out before this podcast. So you can go watch the video. And it was really cathartic, I said. Very wholesome, really enjoyable. It's always something I've been interested in, but for some reason never really did it. I'd love to grow something. I've been saying it for 10 years. I'd love to grow something and eat it myself. But what I'd love to discuss with you today is the realities of being in some way sustainable, growing your own food, understanding why growing your own food is different from buying it in the shop, this organic conversation, how obviously there's lots of benefits from a well-being point of view, but from a nutritional point of view, what that looks like as well. I have no idea what direction we're going to go first, but why don't we start with, you are probably best known for the organic conversation. What is organic?
I suppose to tell people what organic is, it's a registered term. It's a word that you actually, if you were to sell your produce, couldn't label it as organic unless you are registered with the two or organic registered bodies in Ireland. That's Organic Trust and that's IOFGA, right? So those are on all, I'm going to say, seed packets, all food items that have and are registered with those. And as a result of that just means it fits and a strict list of rules where no harsh chemicals are used. Glyphosate is not used, which is the active ingredient in Roundup, which most people might have seen sprayed on the periphery edges of gardens or housing estates where grasses, patches are going kind of brown. And on top of that, it's something that looks after the soil. And they use regenerative methods such as farmyard manure, which is just SH1T. You use seaweed or comfrey or something to give nutrients back into the soil to keep it as healthy as it possibly can be to grow fruits and vegetables or to raise, I'm going to say, animals or everything else in between.
Okay. So organic is not a state of food. It's not a type of food. It is a registered term to describe the growing process.
That's exactly what it is.
Okay, perfect. Because that was something I didn't know until I heard you speak before on Gavin's podcast. I had no idea that that's what it was. And I'm assuming most people don't know that that's what it means as well. So what was it specifically about this organic thing that got you interested in the space?
I suppose growing up, going back to maybe why I started, or I just had a grow for it, was I wasn't the tallest. I wasn't, still not the tallest. I wasn't the strongest. And from that, I kind of fell into a healthier lifestyle. And as soon as I moved out of home and moved to Australia when I was 23, I heard of the first diet that I ever came across, because I'm from Waterford, standard, we'll call it mother and father, nurses, worked 12-hour shifts, standard dinner. You could go with, I'm going to say, Weetabix for breakfast. It would have had the likes of, do you know what I mean, your ham sandwiches for lunch, a Nutri-Grain bar, thinking it was healthy. Then going to my dinner would have been chicken curry on a Monday, would have been bacon and cabbage on a Tuesday, lasagna on Wednesday. You would have had maybe pork on Thursday, fish on Friday, takeaway at the weekend, Sunday roast dinner. That was the standard diet. And I actually used to suffer a lot with autoimmune diseases. I used to have a lot of rashes. I used to have eczema. And the only relief I would have got from putting a glass right up to the likes of my flesh. And that was all linked to my diet. But I didn't really know that at the time. I had no clue. And neither did my parents. And I would have had creams and different things like that. Maybe some people haven't heard of this before. And as soon as I went to Australia, I really came across like how food was so important. They were talking about paleo, and I was like, what the hell is paleo? It's like, oh, I'm just kind of eating a certain way for my gut. And I was like, that's kind of unusual. Never heard of that. And then I found country markets over there, and the first country market I ever went to, and I was like, I went over with 4 other Irish people in total, and as a result of that, I was like, these country markets are class. If Irish people had these in Ireland, like, we would be just so better off. And then the man goes to me, they're literally all over Ireland. And I was like, I knew that, yeah. And I just no clue. And then after I came back and I was like, there's actually one of these in every small town and village in Ireland. And I really did enjoy it because I tasted food that was super fresh, and that would have been the freshest that I would have ever had. It's not that I didn't have fresh food growing up, do you know what I mean? But it was broccoli from the store, it was frozen peas, it was tinned sweet corn or things along the lines of that. And as soon as we went over there, I was like, fresh greens, asparagus. And your man who was trying to sell the asparagus was like, it's actually high in iron and it can actually improve blood flow. And he literally had an arrow, it said improve blood flow to all of the body's areas, and he pointed down to his groin, and I was like, that's fucking hilarious. I thought it was so funny. I was like, I'll have 6 punches. And what are you guys getting? So that's where I first kind of came across it. And then coming home and setting up a market garden down in Cork, like that was a huge, I suppose, learning curve for me about how I looked and how I felt when I started to eat these foods. I was starting to take, I'm going to say, heal my gut by taking fresh greens and making a smoothie out of it and drinking it and lining my stomach with fermented foods, whether it was kefir or something along the lines of that, with also sourdough breads, which are really good for you, as opposed to, like, I would have grew up eating that bread that says so fresh it's famous, but yet that bread is actually something that's heavily sprayed with glyphosate to speed up the harvesting process.
Is it?
Yeah. Like all non-organic breads, and breads can be extremely processed. And we have actually touched on this earlier, just having chats about bread. We actually had sourdough bread before we came here.
We did have sourdough bread.
Lovely. Yeah, I had it with olive oil. Boys had butter, all good stuff. Actually, I had both.
I had both.
We both had both.
Yeah.
So, and that's it. Like, no food is good or bad. I suppose it's the idea that there are better ones than others.
I like that.
Yeah, and it just led me to the path of, I was like, I'm feeling so much better. I started training in the gym. Then the gym approached me and was like, you're coming in here like pretty much every day. And you're covered in muck. What are you doing? I was like, I'm just rolling in it outside.
There's a carrot in your pocket there.
Yeah, but that would be the norm. And from that, then I got qualified as a personal trainer and led me to nutrition. And then I just felt so much better, started training people. And then I was, I suppose, incorporating in my personal training and my nutrition to sell the veg. And that's kind of, I suppose, where the combination of all the three pillars of my area of expertise, nutrition, exercise, and growing vegetables, to make it a business to try and make it work for me. But growing veg is a tough gig, but I'm no stranger to hard jobs. Do you know what I mean? I enjoy and relish kind of challenges, but just even using myself as my own best example, I felt so much better eating organic produce than I ever did taking anything like fizzy drinks wise. And now I live such a healthy lifestyle that I would never go back to eating that way.
It's so interesting. There's loads of stuff I want to talk about there, but there's two particular things that I think really resonate with a lot of people, with you specifically. It resonated with me when I saw you first, is that a lot of people who talk about healthy eating and stuff like that, to me, they don't actually look that healthy. And when you bounce in, and obviously in good physical shape, the skin is bronzed from all the sunbeds. And
we talked about that. The secret is out. Gone.
The secret is out. But you enjoy your training, you enjoy conditioning, and that's attractive to a lot of people nowadays. And combining that with home growing and organic and vegetables, it's kind of, I won't say it's modernized it, but it's really made it a little bit more relatable for people. Oh, you can do this and have a healthy, because everyone knows you should eat healthy. Like most people listening to this know probably most of what we're going to talk about, but putting that in a container that they can bring into their own lives. Like, oh, but I could eat healthy and it's going to help me with my autoimmune stuff. It's going to help heal my gut. I can actually get into good physical shape and condition. I can feel amazing when I'm trying to manage my stress. And like, it's linking that with all of these different real life terms. That's why I really enjoy what you do. We both offered each other today, but like a lot of this stuff, it's simple, but it's only simple when you have somebody kind of walking you through the process. Because I feel like, and we can get into this conspiracy stuff a little bit later, but I feel like the power or the empowering feeling of growing your own food is not something that's encouraged. We're not encouraged to do that. Now, again, we'll talk about the practicalities of everybody being self-sufficient, which is not necessarily what we're saying, but there's no real messaging out there for me of this is probably a better way of living your life. The message is it's way more convenient to go to the shop. It's way more convenient to buy stuff that's already cooked and just microwave it. And we do like convenience. We do like convenience. So your combination, I think I found really, really interesting. You mentioned glyphosate there, so I'm going to jump on that one straight away. Glyphosate is something that I looked at last year as well, because I heard a lot of people talking about it. My background was in the medical industry as well, and I would have looked at all these different carcinogens and hormone disruptors and stuff like that. Give me the lowdown on glyphosate, because I didn't realize it in bread, for example.
Yeah, it's in.
Not in bread, but they use it to.
Really speed up the harvesting process of it. So just take an example of wheat is a grain, and as a result of that, literally, it's all grown in the field at the same time. But if you want it to ripen at the same time, you have to spray it off. So that's what the booms and the tractor that we typically see maybe at the end of the summer will be doing, spraying this on to the different crops such as wheat, which makes bread and makes cereals. And that's another reason that I don't recommend cereals to people. I definitely don't recommend non-organic oats, because for the cheapest chips, an extra 50 cents, you can gain the advantage of, I'm going to say, getting organic oats in any of the places where you get your, I'm going to say, shopping done. But there's other recommendations which we can probably touch on a little bit as well. There are farmers across Ireland that I'd highly recommend. The Merry Mill Kevin Scully, who produces the only 100% gluten-free, oats are gluten-free, but his combine harvester is strictly for, I'm going to say, only cutting wheat, as opposed to other brands that do wheat and other grains that have gluten contained in them, that then are cross-contaminated in the combine harvester, which isn't 100% cleaned out. And for some people, that's okay, but for others that are extremely intolerant to gluten, which is a protein that's indigestible for that particular person, can cause dramatic effects in the negative. So that's someone that I would always recommend. And again, I don't get paid to mention any of those people. I just actually love highlighting the likes of Kevin from the Merry Mill Oats, who produces something that's cold pressed, that it's not only beneficial for you, it's so beneficial for the environment, and all other produce as well, from meats and eggs. And I'm not a vegan or not a vegetarian. I know my book that I've written is all about growing your own. That's my area of expertise, fruits and veg. I don't have a farm that has animals on it. So the idea is I can only tell people about the likes of the fruits and vegetables. But glyphosate is something that I wouldn't recommend for people to have in their diets in any extra amount, because it's now in the water table because of the amounts that we use. It's used, as I mentioned, in periphery of gardens. It's used in parks. I'd love to get it banned in itself. It's something that, again, causes leaky gut. It's something that's causing infertility in women and men. And that's one of the reasons why we have increased population where they're becoming more and more infertile. And that's not fair to us. And we just actually don't even realize what we're doing. When we buy something for 49 cents or the equivalent of it, we're actually supporting those shops to continue to buy from those suppliers that do that, right? Buying from a farmer is much more, I'm going to say, enjoyable, and getting to know the farmer. And I love this quote: try and shake the hand that feeds you if you possibly can. There are loads of different farms. Like I did that, there's a cycle that I did called the Longest Man to Mizzen there last year, where we highlighted 10 different farms that are from regenerative and from organic backgrounds, where they literally look after the land in such a positive way and produce food that literally people can literally gain the advantage of, that is so nutritionally beneficial for them, as well as supporting someone who's actually carrying out practices that are beneficial for the land, as well as the likes of something that's done in their family for generations. And it's a dying trade of farmers right now, because people don't want to go into it because there's very little money.
Yeah. I have two questions here. Yep. First of all, I want to just go back to glyphosate. I think sometimes I catch myself right in these conversations, because everything that you've said there, I've heard before in terms of the issues with hormone production. They're literally seeing now with reproductive organs in young men who are being born, they're different shape and size, and all sorts of stuff is going on. But there's also an important note to make here. Like this isn't fear mongering. This sometimes people can listen to these kind of podcasts. Oh, I'm not going to eat anything now. That's not it. There is a balance there for people, and I think part of the balance, when I put myself in other people's shoes as well, because I'm really interested in this, as are you, and like you live this life, and I've always been into health and wellness, and that was my background too. And when I think about someone who doesn't come from that background or have maybe the knowledge or the education or the experience of that, and they hear something like this, social media has a funny way of taking a thing and blowing it out of massive proportions. I have read some really scary stuff about glyphosate. I'm not an expert in the area by any means at all, but I do think it's something we need to be cautious of. But how practical do you think it is for the average person to live the type of life that you live and to avoid things like glyphosate? Because cost is a big issue. There's a certain socioeconomic bracket of people who might not be able to afford the type of food that doesn't contain, for example, gluten-free oats or glyphosate. That's probably a bigger conversation to have here. I know you said to me earlier on, organic food is expensive because it's harder to produce, and you can't use a lot of these other processes that make it more convenient, but potentially less nutrition and healthy. What does that conversation look like for you? Like say people who are maybe struggling financially and they can't really afford the organic food. Where does that land?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. It can go in so many different avenues. So I suppose I'll unpack it as best I possibly can. The idea of it is no diet can ever, right now, the current situation we're in, eliminate glyphosate completely because it's in the water table. We've used so much of it on the land. And as I said, it's on the side of the roads where there's no weeds nearly growing. They're spraying it on walkways across Ireland, whether it's greenways or blueways. They're just covering over ditches right now. You see the grasses being browned off. That kind of pisses me off.
What's a blue way? By the
It's the Waterford Greenway. You heard of that?
Yes.
Yeah, they're Blue Way. They copied Waterford.
Oh.
So there's one of them up I'm going to say the west of the country, where it's just walkways across.
Okay.
Yeah,
It's the same thing.
same thing.
Okay.
Just in a different location. They've named it slightly different, make it different but the same. So just on all these walkways across Ireland, they're just spraying grass that literally and wildflowers that they'll never see now, and they're damaging the soil with the beneficial microorganisms that are located on the soil that you can't get back. It ends up then in the water system that then is used to water or feed the animals, whether it's the dairy from the milk that most people are drinking with their cereals or whatever other item they might have in the morning. And we all have it. Even in my own diet, it is in there. If I was to get tested, and I would have a high percentage of organic foods just because of the lifestyle I live and because of the connections that I have and over the last 10 years. So it's impossible to eliminate completely, but I want people just to reduce it down. And we'll touch on the point because it's always about cost when it comes down to families. I don't have a current family. I'm not lucky enough to have a partner or children, but I have 2 nieces that I, as of this last 3 years, when they moved into their new house, I set them up with potatoes. I set them up with onions.
Love it.
I've set them up with the likes of strawberries, similar to yourself. That's the 3 classics, and fresh edible greens that they all eat from a young age, which is much better for them. And they're super healthy, strong kids. Like, if and when I do have my own kids, I can't wait to have healthy kids. Like, I'm feeding them the best stuff. And that's what if any family, either I'm going to say a mother or a father or 2 partners want for their children, the best foods they possibly can. And I always say, do you know what I mean? Growing your own, you only have to have a small area to produce a small bit of your own. Whether it's potatoes, they grow in a bucket. You throw them into the ditch and they'll start growing, right? Yours will be up in literally 4 weeks. The red Yuki York, and they'll have purple. I'm going to say leaves emerging from the ground. Your Mizuna, which is an edible salad, it's very similar to rocket. Just wanted to give you something.
It's an Oriental salad.
This guy was listening. He's reading notes straight off a page.
I have a teleprompter behind there. Mizuna Oriental salad leaf, yes.
Yeah, look, he's good. He's squinting. So those are things that I want people to do. Do the simple things. But you did mention it right. It's something is only easy when you get shown firsthand how to do it, right? I handed you the seeds. I told you how many seeds to put in each cell. Right, from that, in 4 weeks' time, in 1 week time, he's going to be texting me more than he would have ever texted any woman in his life. Just at the start of a relationship. Come on, what do I do here? XX, night. So that's what's going to happen.
You read my phone.
Who else are you texting? So that's what I've done, and that's what I do with people all across Ireland. I do different grow your owns. I do different retreats that are all inclusive of. You come and meet me, we talk about it, we get people going away with different fruits and vegetables that are in season at that time, because then they have their homework to do. They have to look after that. And from that, they put it into an area. If they don't have the area, like you don't at the minute, you have to find an area. We have to plan out. We have 3 or 4 weeks. The time is ticking to put them into the ground or put them into a pot or some sort of a section where you can really harvest the greens right outside your back door to make smoothies with the kids or to drink for yourself. That literally is so different to what's inside in a shop that's put in a plastic bag that's shipped halfway across of Europe, maybe even the world, depending on what shop you go into, and is pumped with chemicals, right? You're literally all you're going to do, and it's literally as simple as this: add water, right? Now that you have the seeds sown. But I had to ring you, I had to promote you to say, yeah, you have a place, you'll have to get a lovely new location. You have a glass house that people would kill for.
Yeah.
You have 1, 2, 3, you have 4 raised beds, and they're pretty much nearly all full already. From sowing a couple of seeds in a few trays, from organic seeds and high quality compost. It's all those small things all the time that add up. But going back to the point of, like, if you can't buy it, I highly recommend you to buy a packet of seeds with your potatoes, onions, garlic, and the most important fruit or vegetable to eat is the one you eat the most of. That's it.
Okay. Yeah. It's
So
going to tell me which one that was there for a second.
I sometimes do that. I ask people, like, put you on the spot, what's the most important vegetable organically to eat? It's the most important one is the one you eat the most. If you eat a lot of potatoes, start eating potatoes. If you eat a lot of oats, start eating organic oats. Carrots, onions, garlic, leeks, you name it. Name the veg that you're eating the most of. I would go with that.
Okay, yeah, no, I love that approach, because that's generally where I get to with most of these. Kind of when I was younger, it was very like, I'd find out about a thing and I was like, you need to do 100% of this thing, but most of us aren't even doing the 1%. Like you said, I'm into this stuff. I had the facility. That was very lucky with the house that we got there. The guy before me had all of this set up, all ready to go. Literally all I needed was to put my finger in and put a seed in, and I hadn't done it. So I'm just I love to get to that place where no matter where a person is, it's not about reaching a certain standard or level. It's just about them being able to be a little bit better or a little bit healthier or doing something small that could enhance their connection or relationship or nutrition in this case. That little 1%, I like that approach.
And I'm going to touch on that other point, right? So we've mentioned the word sustainability is thrown out there, and is what we've discussed a little bit about here. To be 100% sustainable, I'm not even 100%
self-sustainable.
Self-sustainable, apologies. Yeah, self-sufficient.
Self-sufficient.
Yeah. That is very difficult. You need a certain amount of land, and it doesn't come in many of the houses that we're currently in, and because it's a full-time job, right? We already have a full-time job. Then you have a part-time job looking after the kids, which is another full-time job, really, on top of another job. So you can't literally do 3 jobs when you're meant to only have one. And people sometimes think that, I'm going to get that house in the country, or I'm going to have a certain amount of land where I'm going to have 2 goats, I'm going to have a cow, I'll milk the cow, we'll make the butter, we'll have the eggs, we'll have the hens, and have the fruits and have the vegetables, and it's all going to be rosy, and we don't have to do any more work, and we're going to get off the grid, and then no one's going to bother me, and I'm going to live happily ever after. That doesn't exist, and by God, I'm going to tell you, growing veg is tough, but it's so rewarding. But for the most part, there's 99% of the listeners here are not going to become self-sufficient overnight. And if you are, well done, and message me, because I want to know the setup that you currently have to keep it all going. And I'm just putting that out there to people. You'll see it, that lovely cottage that's in the country, that has the well, that has the hens, that has the 2 cows and the pig in the likes of that cottage setting with the lovely stone wall and the fruit trees, which is another point I'm just going to touch on after this. That's that fairy tale.
It's probably owned by a big corporate. It's where they bring all the tourists. This is how we grow everything in Ireland.
Oh my goodness, yeah. And going back to other really simple things, and one of the first things that I mentioned to you, and I do this for different schools across Ireland, I set them up because it should be the gold standard, with literally an orchard with fruit bushes in between that literally produces fruit when they are in school. It flowers in April. Every school is on the grounds at that moment in time. Comes back in September when the fruits are all on the apples. Apples are something that's sprayed up to 10 times in a growing season. That's not to scare you. That's just to inform you. The idea is that is such a simple thing to do. I've set up over 50 schools in the last 2 years with that simple method of buying Irish locally sourced apples, typically from Wexford or Clare, 2 different sources, planting them in the correct way, and have one school in Dublin for Educate Together School. And from that, they have literally only a foot of space. And I was like, oh my God, what am I going to do with this school? I can't keep doing pots. Do you know what I mean? They want something more than that. They had a fence that was probably about 8 foot tall. I then planted every 3 meters a different fruit tree, growing espalier left and right. It's the only Irish grown espalier trained fruit trees in Ireland at a school.
What's espalier?
It trained left and right. So any branches that grow out this direction, right, they're pruned off. So it only spreads across the wall.
Also for limited spaces.
I literally have this much ground.
That's gas.
And I'm going to say I came up with it on the spot, but my brain, being dyslexic and everything else, it thinks really quick.
Okay, that's brilliant.
So cool.
So let me ask you some practical questions then, just on this topic. So you have fruit trees that they flower in
April
and they fruit in
September.
So they fruit once a year. So what about the rest of the year? So if I have an apple tree, roughly how many apples am I going to get out of it?
About 100.
About 100 apples, right?
100.
So are there 100 apples to do me for the year, or do I have 100 apples and now I have to use them and make 10 apple tarts? Or for the rest of the year, what am I going to do for apples?
Great question. So preserving things is something that is now becoming much more popular. Whether it's a cabbage, we'll talk about sauerkraut and kimchi. The apples, we literally can freeze them and make different sauces and put them into the freezer. So I'm lazy healthy. And for people that want, I suppose, to be a little bit more self-sufficient, you catch an apple off the tree, you grab it, you open up the freezer door, you open up the drawer, you drop it in. Keep it simple, lads. That's literally freezing apples. And just to mention again, if I take that apple out and defrost it, no, the apple doesn't come out to the perfect state that it was in. It is for stews, it is for pies and other tarts and different things and sauces, whether it's with pork or if you're a vegan or vegetarian, another protein source. But yes, that's what you do. So one tree will give you 100 if you eat much more apples. But the idea is, right, you don't eat apples. Fruit food and fruit comes into season for a reason.
Yeah.
Apples are a natural prebiotic, okay? They're high in a type of fiber called pectin, which is really good for your skin after the summer that we've had exposed ourselves to the likes of more sunlight than we typically do in the winter months. And that's what's repairing our cells to keep us in a healthy state. Isn't that cool?
It is pretty cool.
Yeah, it is pretty cool. When you slow down, and even when I say it, I'm like, geez, I can't wait to start eating more apples again in September. All right. But there are still apples that are Irish and we can get your hands on. And we tasted one today because I love
it. Was a pretty tasty apple.
Pretty tasty apple. That apple is from Richard Galvin in Portlaw, Clash Granny Apples. He also does apple cider vinegar, which again is another thing for aiding in digestion and people can add to their diet. Right? I just love knowing the reason why behind something is good for you. You're much more likely to use it, right? Whether it's an apple or anything else.
No, I didn't want to cut across today, but I had a conversation. I've had this conversation a lot about storytelling. It's a big part of what I do and the work I do as well. And it comes into so many different parts of our lives. And that is huge for me as well. And the reason I wanted to do today, and we did this video and everything, because there was a story about everything. There's a story about where this potato came from and why it grows a certain way and why it needs it. And stories, we connect really well with stories. We don't care otherwise. I worked in the medical industry for years. No one cared about the medication or their bloods, but they cared about the story. And they cared about when we were telling them, you can change this. This is just a story. You can change this story. You've got these things going on and you can change your story and the emotion of something changes for them, and then they become a person who wants to understand their food and they want to become healthy because there's a story attached to that. And people usually say, I want to be around to play with my kids, or when I'm 70, I want to be able to still go for a walk and enjoy it with my partner or whatever it might be. And that story is that little bud of motivation for someone to start doing things. And I think that's what you do really, really well. You having the knowledge and you enjoying the story about the thing and then passing that on to other people is a massive skill that we missed out on. And again, going back to my little underlined one here, conspiracy theories, I don't think necessarily there's a conspiracy to keep us. It's just obviously industry has changed the way that the agricultural revolution, the way that we eat food, the way we harvest food. We have to feed all these different people. We'll talk about more practicalities going forward, like how practical is it? You already mentioned most people are never going to be self-sufficient, which is obvious. We never really were self-sufficient. We were sufficient in communities and groups where we all contributed, but now we don't have those communities and groups. We're trying to do it by ourselves. I'm going to feed my entire estate now with the... How many spuds am I getting out of the... I'm getting 10 per. We did 80. Did we do 8?
Yeah, about 80.
80. I'm getting 80 spuds. How many people can I feed with 80 spuds?
We could bulk it up with other different vegetables that we can grow at the same time. But yeah,
100%. So like, the context is really important, but the story created around that, that's what excites me. If you just threw some seeds at me and went to put them in the garden, I'd be like, yeah, whatever. But you talk to me about now your kids and you can put the smoothies and they'll come out and you'll have something on the plate and they can go, God, we grew this. Like that's a story they'll love, and then that makes me love it because there's a whole magic around it. So yeah, I think it's incredible. Let's stick on that sustainability thing for a minute, because the apple question was one, but if I was to grow your standard, what did we say? We said it was potatoes, strawberries, and onions. So based off what we put into the potatoes, what's the growing and the harvesting of potatoes? Can you do them anytime, or is it just, again, they're specifically seasonal?
Yeah, they are specifically seasonal, but they're also one of the crops that store very well. Right? So you can...
Lovely.
Yeah. So as a result of that, we could, as I talked about, we'll probably clear your whole grass area and we can put down all the spuds and your wife will probably kill me. But the idea is, what ends up happening is those potatoes can be stored for the winter.
Yes.
You get me? So the early variety that we put into the ground will be ready in about 100 days. There's second earlies that literally take a little bit longer. Then there's a main crop that literally take a little bit longer. 100 days from sowing them, your potatoes today, they're early. Second variety of potatoes, Vitabella, another blight resistant variety. Put them into the ground and get them in 120 days. 150 days for a main crop from the day you sow them.
Okay, but all of those have to be sowed at the same time. So
they can be, roughly in and around the same time. Yes, so after our last frost, because we can't sow them in the winter.
Yes.
Because the frost will damage the leaves.
Okay.
Because we have to remember, every time you plant something, I feel like I'm just like, I have so much information in my head.
I can see it bursting now. You're like, which one would I tell him now?
So like potatoes come from what country?
Ireland.
No, they don't. They come from South America and Peru.
South America and Peru.
So it's much more.
My potatoes are going to come from Ireland.
They will. Good point. They came from Waterford. We'll say no more. Yeah. But the next year's generation are your own, and you get to save the seeds and keep them alive. Do you know what I mean?
Yes. Yeah,
so
yeah.
There's a story to it. You're like, oh my God, yeah, they're starting to sprout. Perfect. Right? Now we literally can put them in the ground next year. They know when to grow, when they want to grow, because the temperature increases. And from that, they're your potatoes. You can name them, most certainly, Dan's family's, I'm going to say classic potatoes for next
classic
year.
goal.
Yeah. And from that, there's a story and behind it. I started it in 2025 and we kept on going. We've saved these seeds for so many years, and now we're bringing them to a different site, or we're expanding out, and we have more potatoes than we had last year.
Okay, let me do some quick maths here, right then. So let's say that the space that we planted in today, the bed itself was about a square meter, maybe a little bit bigger.
Yeah, but we call that square meter.
So that raised bed, let's say that's a square meter. So I don't know, anybody watching it's quite, most people would have a square meter in their back garden. Right?
Yeah.
So let's say we're getting 80 potatoes out of that. 80 potatoes, and I've got 5 people in my family. That's what, 2 potatoes per person for every meal. How many meals is that?
Ah, geez, you're asking. I'm dyslexic to do maths here live. I need a piece of paper.
So it's about 8 to 10 meals, really.
Okay. Where we go with the numbers here?
Yeah.
Right. Do you eat potatoes every day?
No. But let's just say in meals, right?
Okay.
Let's say we eat potatoes once a week, right? 8 to 10 meals, so it's 8 to 10 weeks. So doing some very loose, quick maths on that with the potatoes we planted today, 8 to 10 weeks out of my 52 weeks, I could eat my own homegrown, not organic because that's the registered term, but my own Dan potatoes.
Yeah.
So now I've reduced my shop potatoes by, 10 weeks there? So by roughly 2.5 months. So you've reduced 15% of. So that's a good win.
Yeah, massive win.
So rather than, because I used to think about it, I've got 100 days now to wait for these potatoes. I have to plant the things, wait for 100 days, and I'm going to get how many potatoes? I'm going to have 10 meals out of them. But if I think about it the other way, now I'm working away from that, buying stuff in the shop and potential spray and glyphosate and all that kind of stuff. And it's not huge, but potentially I'll get a slightly bigger, if this works out, slightly bigger, I'll double that, and now I'm up to 20 meals. And yeah, okay. See where I'm going with
I
this?
certainly do. And you have a glass house that has no soil in it yet, but we're going to somehow change that and convert that into a much more growable area than just a sunroom alone. That's why Dan is a lovely chap.
That's why I do have a lovely chap.
He's been sitting in that glass house.
Yeah.
But you've huge potential right there. You have a glass house, you have raised beds, you have a mountain of grass. And more people, I've met someone just there recently after a school event, and they literally are getting rid of all their grass in the back garden. Completely getting rid of it.
And they're going to
change it to spuds, carrots, onions, the staples, and they're going to train again 2 fruit trees up against the back wall. Boom, boom, under all their grass gone.
Yeah.
Because grass actually only costs you money. Right?
Yeah.
And we're not. Let's always base this around money. You gain health in being outside, right? The holistic health of grounding. I love having muck on my hands. That's actually good for you. The idea is people are trying to get rid of 99.9% of all bacteria, which again is a bit mad in itself. Like, we're nearly too clean now.
Yeah.
And that's not beneficial, because if you don't most certainly have a certain amount of negative, or more so the likes of bacteria on your hands, you're much more likely to get sick. And your skin is the start of your microbiome.
Yes, yeah, 100%, yeah. I'm going to keep going on this practicality thing. Right? I'm jumping from Billy to Jack here, but I think these are interesting questions, because there's different contexts for different people. Again, not everyone's going to have access to a raised bed or a greenhouse or grass in their garden or whatever. If I live in an apartment, right?
Yep.
What are some of the things that I can do to reduce my shot by?
Amazing, right? You can go straight away and you can start growing microgreens. That's the first thing. Microgreens are literally the immature plant of any typically of brassicas. You can start them off with, because you can sow a seed and within 4 days they're up. You can harvest within 2 weeks.
Broccoli sprouts.
Sulforaphane. Yeah, now we're talking.
Let's go.
Yeah, right. So sulforaphane is the active compound found in all, I'm going to say, brassicas, whether it's rocket, mizuna also as well, and the likes of your kale and broccoli, if I didn't mention that already. So that's something that is able to neutralize free radicals and reduce stress on the body. Less stress, more energy.
Less stress, more success.
That is it. Write the book, get that down.
That was a series of Leaving Cert books, so I can't take the take the
we're out. Okay, someone else bit down to that one. But the whole idea of it is, right, that's the first thing, microgreens. Next thing you can do...
Sorry, microgreens, where you ground them? I had little sprouting jars, like.
Yeah, right. We keep it because people are like, oh, it's expensive. The yogurt cartons, you turn them on its side, you cut the ass off them. Then you don't need the top. From that, you add compost, sprinkle the seeds, and literally press them down, sprinkle another little bit of compost, and then you sow one of them every single Monday. So you literally have 1, 2, 3 on the go all the time.
Oh, so you're
constant
just
supply. There's that.
And they're year round?
Yeah, exactly. They're pretty much year round.
Okay.
Yeah, they'll slow down a little bit because it gets a little bit cooler. But if you have the heating on or the underfloor, you'll get more from the likes of your microgreens. That's the first thing. Then the other thing that people mightn't know a lot about, there are allotments all over Ireland that you can literally rent for as little as 50. It does depend on the site. Can go up to 150. But as a result of that, that is...
Per month?
No, per year.
For a year?
For a year, you can rent a plot of land, right, for as little as €50. It can go up from that, €150.
But even €150 for a year.
Let's call it €150 for the year.
That's fairly reasonable.
Very reasonable for land.
For land.
because they're not making any more of it. That you can produce your own food with your own hands to feed your own family. Oh, geez, I love that. I'm glad we recorded this. Will I say it again?
Yeah, say it
Yeah,
again.
you produce your own food on your own land for your own family. I think I said it different the second time, but I'm glad we had recorded the first one. That's amazing. That's just a no-brainer. Packet of seeds, cheapest one you can get is $2.50. After that, you can, now that we all know Dan, we can get the seed potatoes, the small ones that he doesn't eat, and we can put them into the ground next year. Right? So it's about knowing somebody, because that's what
I
literally
meant to ask you, where am I getting the seeds from the next?
you can save the smaller ones, the small little pebbles
The small little potatoes that don't grow.
that don't go large.
They don't go large. Okay.
Yeah, that you can then put into the ground next year, or you can buy them from the likes of where Seeds Ireland is another great producer of seeds. Quick Crop, another really good one that I would recommend, and growing blight resistant varieties or early varieties, so you don't have to spray them.
Okay.
Yeah, so that was pretty cool. So that for the people who are living in apartments or that don't have a lot of land, and when you're in an allotment, you are then part of a community, which you can grow the potatoes. They can grow the likes of the tomatoes. Who has a glass house? You don't have a glass house because you only have €150 to rent the land for the year from that allotment. And then it becomes a lifestyle of going to the allotment. It's exercise, and hopefully at some stage you'll be walking from the car park, which is the basic requirement of exercise. You're growing and sowing and squatting and lifting and shoveling the weeds and everything else that are there. You pick the veg, you go back to your house, you have food for you and your family.
That's amazing.
I have all the solutions for people right now.
You're solving all the problems.
Problem solver.
Okay, so we're in an apartment. We have our sprouts, our brassicas.
Yeah.
Our brassicas. We have potentially our allotment. Anything else that you'd recommend?
For
I'm just talking about anyone who doesn't have easy resource, like a garden or grass that they can grow themselves. Maybe they can't go to an allotment or whatever like that. And just all these different ways that we can just work towards this more ideal health status, I suppose, or nutritional status. If somebody is interested in, I want to eat a little bit better, but they're not going to go and do all of put the beds, the raised beds in the greenhouse and all this kind of stuff. And he does extra little bits.
Yeah, good. And I love the way you're asking these questions, because that's someone at home going, sure, I have no this.
This is why
how could that Colman fella? All he says is grow, and I don't have no seeds.
Dig out all your grass and have a greenhouse and it'll be grand. Yeah.
Right? The whole idea of it is you'll only do what you want. You want better health? You literally have either more time or you have more money. There are so many different farms. There are so many different country markets all around the place, inclusive of Dublin. The Green Door is another great place. And I'm just only mentioning these places because they're places that I found along my journey going, now I'm in Dublin, now I'm in Cork, now I'm in Galway. Where do I go? What can I get? Super values are very good as well for supporting local producers. But the idea is we have the power in our pocket. Do a quick Google, local country market near me. Where can I get local produce, whether it's raw milk or it's anything else, from fruits and vegetables to meats and eggs. There are people literally looking to give you to it, and sometimes we don't realise Ireland has some of the best producers of food, whether it's fruit and vegetables or anything else in between, but they don't know how to sell it, right? They have social medias, but they're not as quick and fancy, and I learned that from, I suppose, searching for them myself. They're not as good at it as maybe I am, for example, but now that's what I'm kind of leaning towards, the education of highlighting these farms that produce that different type of food. And that's what I want for more and more people to do. You either grow a little bit of your own or buy it, but whatever you do, add it to your diet.
From what I understand, which is very little, by the way, so take this to the pinch of salt, but from what I understand about the way things are moving, the way industry is moving, the way agriculture is moving, in order to survive as a business for these farms and farmers and producers, it's much more difficult to operate outside the bubble. Now these are American-based documentaries. I watched a few documentaries before about how these systems work and how you start to develop monopolies in certain food industries and stuff like that, and it becomes about the bottom line and about profit, and you get into GMO and faster production and higher turnover, and you got to feed the world and all this kind of stuff. What's that landscape look like in Ireland? Because I don't know what it's like to run a small organic farm. You're saying that they don't have as much exposure as they could, and industry is coming. It's all about more, bigger, faster, quicker, better turnaround, more volume. And maybe you could speak to a few different areas and wherever you're comfortable talking about. But what does the landscape look like? This idea of the soil nutrient as well. I know this can be a big problem for people who are not properly cycling and rotating crops and stuff like that. What's the story in Ireland at the moment? Because most of the information that I've seen, the stuff I've seen, it's American. And I know we have different rules and different ways of doing things, but what does it look like here?
Yeah, that's a huge broad question again. So I'll try to break it down as best I possibly can.
It's a very good specific question with your stuff.
So the idea is, I'll tell you the reason why it is so broad, because every site is different.
Okay.
Right. And every farm is different, depending on where they're farming, depending on what part of the country they're located in. Right. So that's why it's important to realize that there are farms that do take people on. Right. And I'm highlighting as many of them as I possibly can. And there's now a group that we're after, a company that we're after establishing. It's called Grounded in Soil. Right. And as a result of that, there's a festival on the 16th of August. Okay. Getting people in Ireland that produce food to be brought there. There'll be no fizzy drinks, as in Coke, more so. There'll be no Cokes, there'll be no Diageo. It'll all be organic, it'll all be regenerative, with these farmers who want to get known by the general public so they can get their produce sold on a regular basis, so they can make a living out of it, so they can continue to do what they've done for generations, which is, it is a dying trade. Growing is a dying trade, and even farming is. There's kids in schools that don't even know what a vegetable looks like anymore. Yeah. That's the God honest truth.
So is that happening here as well?
That's happening, yeah, and that's in Ballintubbard in County Laois on the 16th of August. And if anyone is looking to get tickets for that, they're available on Grounded in Soil. If you're not sure where that is or can't spell it, send me a message on social media and I'll touch base with you.
I phrased that question really poorly as well. That's obviously great, but is that the dying out of this industry is happening in Ireland?
Yeah, it definitely is happening in Ireland. Yeah, okay. Because the younger generation, we don't want to go into it because there isn't a lot of money. You can make much more money from making posts on social media than you can spending twice that amount, 3 times the amount of time. Do you know what I mean? 60 hours a week working on a farm for getting the minimum wage and hoping that people will buy your produce, whether it's meat or eggs or anything else.
What do you think then? Because you mentioned regenerative farming there as well, which I find is a really interesting topic. We can dive into that a little bit. But what do you think about? I sometimes see a lot of this new tech that's coming out. It's insane. I don't want to. It's like the medical conversation. The technology is incredible, and what people can do is it's amazing to watch. However, it doesn't line up for me with what we're talking about when it comes to like some of the chemicals that they're using. That's new technology like glyphosate and stuff like that. Obviously, we've discussed that. Some of the way that they plant and harvest this monocrop culture where they're really like leaching the soil of nutrients, and there's a clock on that essentially. From what I understand, there is a clock. At one point, this piece of land will no longer be able to be used for growing or farming. How are you looking at that at the moment? Because yes, having the festivals and having all the small growers come together is all amazing, but it's going to be profit driven, and it's going to be how do we feed all these people? Because there's going to be a battle between all of us as communities and families buying into this organic and supporting the local farms and building them up and then being able to supply. Because realistically, 95% of people are still going to go and get the food in the shop. They're still going to go and get the food in the convenience store. So if Mary's farm is 2 miles down the road and their convenience store is on the corner, they're going to the corner. And I can't say that that's necessarily a problem because there's stress and kids and mortgages and all these things going on as well. So what's your impression? Because you're a very, very positive guy. I want to know what the...
Right, there's loads of points I want to touch on. And the idea is initially I have a piece of paper in front of me and bottle up a couple of those different things, and even a pen for the most part.
Look at that magic.
The idea is for my next question. So going through a load of those different things, it's really important to remember to control the controllables. I am only one man and I will help as many people as I possibly can. And right now I have seen, I suppose, my area of expertise helping the general public who want to produce some of their own food. There are farmers out there that are doing other different things in different parts of the country, and they're going to produce food for their locality as much as they possibly can. So I highlight them as much as any man can. I will try teach as many people to grow a small bit, but I do see an increase in the percentage. We'll just go back on the point that was stated, the percentage of 95% of people want to buy from the large discount stores. There's more people cutting back at the 95 because people are sick and tired of being sick and tired. And we are as a generation getting sicker from the foods that we're eating on a daily, on a weekly, on a monthly and a yearly basis, because the food isn't produced and made the exact same way as it was 20 years ago. And that's what I'm trying to do. Get people back to buying direct from the farms a little bit more. All you have to do is literally do your best to be your best, getting the best type of foods for you and whoever else wants to eat it too. Can't change the world. You can only change one person at a time. Exact same way with your fitness. Literally one day at a time, you start eating healthier and you get better and better. Compound effect of anything.
Okay.
Yeah. That being me being the positive man that I am. And to touch on the point of the soil, we only have a certain amount of years left. And again, there are American studies with those things. Yeah. And I look at the peer-reviewed documents from PubMed, and every soil, every land is different. So that's why we need to get people looking after the land that we currently have and growing in as much of a capacity as you can as a nation to have it in schools. That's it's a form of education. Like, you can do maths. We have been doing maths here, and I can't do them because I didn't.
Neither can I, apparently, based off the numbers we pulled out of my potatoes. I'm going to feed half a swords on the fucking 80 spuds I pull out of my meter.
Absolutely hilarious. But those are things we can do: science, we can do physics, we could do geography, we could do, you name it, history of the potato famine in 1945, where we used to grow only one traditional potato called the lumper, and now we have over 150. We now know, I couldn't believe this fact, right? How do we literally get around the way of blight? What do we possibly do? And literally, my lecturer, Klaus Leitenberg, at the time in my master's degree, when I was down in Cork, he was like, just grow blight-resistant varieties. Doesn't that sound so simple? And I was like, Jesus, man, we're in college. Like, we're meant to be well educated. And it was like such a simple answer. I was expecting like, no, we just have to plant it at a certain time and turn it sideways and add this and add that to it. No, you just grow blight-resistant varieties. You can grow earlier varieties when that don't come into they grow into the conditions when it's in August, when you typically have the blight coming in, when it's humid and it's moist, right? That's when the blight is at its highest point of, I'm going to say, occurring. So you typically grow them early varieties like yours, or a blight-resistant variety like Sao Pomira. I mentioned Vitabella are two off the top of my head that you should be growing, as opposed to ones that can get it and they have to spray if you want to have your potatoes harvested without the likes of having blight on them. And to describe people that might know blight, just a disease that literally causes the leaves to be infected, and as a result of that, the potato then turns into pretty much mush.
Is there a way for farming to do this the right way? Is there a way for I know it's an industry scale. So is there a way, even 50% better, for the farming industry as a whole to produce blight-free crops without having to spray all the time, or to grow under that organic badge more? Is this an industry-driven thing, or is it a practicality-driven thing? Can you do this on scale the way we live now? Because as I said before, we used to live in small communities. You go to spuds, I go to tomatoes, whatever. Now we don't. We're a global community, or we're with millions and millions of people living in countries. Is it possible at that scale, without everybody having access to their own land, for the industry to change to facilitate more organic growing, healthier food, less spraying, etc.?
Yes, it is possible, right? But as a result of that, the price of the food items is going to increase, right? Where some people are not willing to pay that, as we discussed, is probably in the majority.
Yeah, not willing or not able.
Willing or not able. That's a very good point. Willing or not able because of funds that are coming in on a whatever monthly basis. So we can, but food prices are going to go in the direction of the upward.
So is it fair to say that you think a lot of this, not the responsibility as in it's our responsibility, but if we want to eat healthier, it is up to us to make these decisions?
We can only control what we can control. And the idea is, if you can't trust someone to look after or produce food for you that you don't think is healthy for you and your family, I'd highly recommend you start growing some of your own spuds. Isn't that a good answer?
That's a
fair answer. Yeah. And you use whatever land you currently have.
Yeah.
Most people are cursing that they have to go out and push a lawnmower around it, literally put fuel into it, €20, whatever, every couple of weeks, and they spill half it on the floor. And as a result, I know, where's the filter? Can't find the filter. Pouring it, all leaking down the side of the lawnmower. Or they're buying robots, which is a couple of €1,000. You buy a lot of organic fruit and vegetables for €1,000, if you get me. And that's what you need to do. You need to do your best to get food that you either grown, that someone has grown for you, whether it's a small producer or it's going to a country market or it's yourself. Like, that's what I want more people to do. And you will see massive benefits out the other side in your health, in your skin health, in your gut health, and then in your productivity, which we kind of talked about. As soon as people start eating it, they will see it and believe it for themselves.
Yeah, I find usually this is the problem. My background is in the health industry, as I mentioned before, and it's usually only after something bad happens that people start to make the good changes. And it seems that a lot of the people I meet who are into their own growing or keeping or animals or whatever it might be have had some sort of health issue before.
Yes. Oh my God. We're going to unpack that. I definitely have to go to the toilet.
I fucking tell you what, there's a bottle there or it's under the table.
There's no way. I see something up there. Right. But definitely that's a really important
Write that question down there.
Yeah. So, food can cure.
Ladies and gentlemen, we'll be back in however long.
2 shakes of a lamb's tail.
2 shakes of a lamb's tail. Do you drink alcohol?
It's a really good question. I'm going to say yes, I do. But I've been off the drink now for 4 months, and I feel healthier.
If you just come back in for me, slide back in there.
Be back into my spot.
Into
I haven't had a drop for about 4 months, but I was much more of a drinker during college, like most people for the most part. But you see, I'm addicted to being healthy, really addicted. Because if I wasn't addicted to being healthy, I would be addicted to probably drink or something else or something worse. Because I have that addictive personality, so I'm like healthy and I'm really healthy. Then I was like, geez, I'm on 4 months now at the minute. Geez, I could probably do 6 months.
Yeah.
Then I hit the 6 months. I'm like, geez, I could definitely do a year. And it was something that was probably at its toughest point there just very recently when I was on the Camino. And as a result of that, you're all with people are on their holidays and you're
Vino on the Camino.
Vino on the Camino.
Yeah.
Exactly that. And saying no is pretty difficult. So now I would put myself as a strong character, and getting asked 4 times on one day in the same location and you're out in the sun, you're on your holidays, sure, go on, have one. And if I have one, I'm like, send on another one. And the same again, Charlie. Yep, my round. Let's go. We're on it. And I'm looking for town.
Yeah.
That's what I have. So I haven't had it for about 4 months or so, but that's not to say that I won't. My brother will be getting married next year. I probably do see myself celebrating it. Or I could continue on this role and just say now that I don't need it. And not that anyone ever needs it.
Yeah.
I definitely don't need it. Do you know what I mean? Because most people say they need to kind of loosen up. I'm as free as they come. Do you know what I mean?
As loose as they get, yeah.
As loose as they get.
Yeah. No, it's interesting. I think there's. I spoke about this before. I spoke about this James as well on his podcast. Actually, their relationship. Alcohol is just a thing. Healthy food is just a thing. It's how you interact with it, how you use it, the story you tell yourself about what it means. I know for a lot of people, it's a crutch. It's a distraction. It's to ease the stress or the pain or the whatever it might be, and that's real. And they do need, quote unquote. They don't really need it, but perception is your reality. This is the only relief I get from the way that I'm feeling. And sometimes you reach for the drink, people reach for the phone, people reach for all sorts of stuff, gambling, whatever it might be. So I completely understand that. But my relationship with it would be quite like you. I never drank when I was in school, barely drank when I was in college. I played a lot of sport, just didn't have that relationship with it. And last year, a couple of occasions, like that, where I was just like, I just feel way better. There was occasions where I could have drank, and I'm like, I know I have literally nothing against drink. I have no issue with drink. I enjoy a drink. I enjoy a whiskey. I enjoy a glass of wine. I enjoy a beer. I don't enjoy multiples of it. I never have. But I was like, I don't even need it, and I feel really good. And even the one drink affects me. So I think I don't. There's no problem with drink as a thing in my head. It's just a thing. Drink is just drink. It's how you interface with drink was always my thing. And if you can get to where you are, you're like, I take it or leave it. You're not demonizing the drink and going, oh no, geez, I wouldn't do that now because I'm Mr. Healthy. I have a problem with that. I wouldn't touch the stuff because I'm Mr. Healthy and it's terrible for you. It's poison. You can have a good relationship with it. It's lovely in a social occasion to sit down. I have a glass of whiskey with my dad. He loves it. He loves a glass of whiskey. He doesn't really drink either, but the two of us sit down. It's such a nice glass of whiskey with my dad. That's gorgeous. A glass of wine on the Camino, vino on the Camino, or when you go to your brother's wedding, celebrate, lovely occasion. It's nice. That's a nice thing to do. But when it becomes a crutch, or it becomes it's an impulse, or it's just you do it because it's part of what everybody does, or you succumb to social pressure, I think that's a different thing.
Yeah, and people are looking for a change in state of mind.
Yes,
is what they use it for the most part. Whether it's being with a partner, I want to feel a certain way, whether it's to loosen up and talk in a slightly different slang or frame of mind. And that's where it gets into, I have to drink to feel this way, or I have to drink to be with them. I have to drink to whatever it may be.
And there's no problem. I don't think, like, it can enhance a social occasion to have a drink or two with your friends. But if you can only achieve that with the drink, that's the issue for me.
Yeah, and a great point you said. Like, I've had some of the best times ever at sessions and parties.
With
full to the nines.
Yeah.
But I also will balance it on that day too with exercise and stuff like that too. Yeah. So that's me kind of going, oh, I'm drinking. I'm making sure we're working out today, Colman. I'm doing a class with someone online. You're going to get it that day.
Yeah, and I think that's the same point. You kind of alluded to this point earlier on with the food as well. It's not about only eating glyphosate-free food, only eating organic all the time. It's about, for you, finding that nice balance where you can eat as healthy as you possibly can to the point where you feel really good, and you can still enjoy, if you enjoy a pizza every now and again. This is one thing, and you might be pizza. I enjoy pizza every now and again, but I like to eat mostly healthy. I like to cook pretty much most of the food that I eat or feed my family, most of it, but it's not all of it. And my kids will have treats and stuff like that, and chocolates and bits and bobs, because I think it's important that they're exposed to some of this stuff. But it's the old cliche. My folks used to say it all the time: everything in moderation. So it's not everything in moderation. I wouldn't drink petrol in moderation. You know what I mean? But it is finding, it is that old cliche again, finding that nice balance where you feel really good, where you're healthy. And we'll get on to the question I asked you now in a second, because I don't believe most people know what healthy is for themselves, because they've never really felt really good. Like, imagine you were that young fella with the ration and stuff like that, and you never experienced what it was like to eat healthy because you never moved to Australia, and you just kept eating. You thought this was just normal, and you thought that you were at a 7 or an 8, but you're actually at a 3 or 4. But you don't even know what a 7 or 8 is. You've no context for it. So I think that's part of the problem. But yeah, I think with the alcohol thing, with all these different things, I think it's about finding that space where you feel really good and your day to day is really good. And you've got good energy, and there's a positivity about how you feel and how you act, and you can do the things you want to do. And most of that, in my opinion, is going to come from what you eat, how you live, who you spend your time with.
Yeah, big time. And it's that idea then, right? We sowed the potatoes today. You mentioned then, whenever these are ready to harvest, you come up here and we'll have a meal. That's
You
class.
have to cook it now.
Fair deal. I'm a great cook.
Yeah.
So it's that whole aspect of it. It's the community. And we wouldn't probably drink there, but we didn't drink today much. No, excuse me. We didn't
Tell them
drink.
what we drank.
Pints of water. Oh, we did. Oh, I'll tell you what we actually drank.
Tell them what we drank.
Oh, we shall. And we shall talk about the benefits. Right? As soon as I came into the house, the lads were full on drinking bottles of it. And I was like, give us one of them quick. And
We were late on the stuff.
And as soon as I had a mouthful, the 3 of us were lit. Went straight out to the garden then, laughing and joking around. But it was the purple coloured beverage that most people don't have on a Friday night. It was beetroot juice. Organic beetroot juice. Lads, it is a superfood, right? And not only is the liquid a superfood, so is, and that's why, more so, we sowed beetroot seeds today with Dan.
To bring it off topic again, what are they, about litre bottles? Or they're about a litre?
Yeah, about a
bottles,
litre,
right?
750.
How many beetroots do I need to get a litre bottle of beetroot juice?
I'm going to say about maybe 5.
Oh.
Yeah.
I thought you were going to say about 50.
But sure, they can grow as big as bigger than your fist,
Yeah,
man.
but I was thinking, you get the juice out of that, you'd maybe get a fucking little dribble.
All right, so the difference between juice, and we would use all the pulp as well, because if you're getting rid of the, let's say, the fibrous bits,
Yeah.
you're getting rid of the most beneficial.
This is the thing with people juicing, wasn't it?
Yeah, they're like, juicing isn't healthy. And then they're like, oh, it is healthy. And it's like, depending on juices is different to blitzing it.
Yeah.
Right? If you're keeping the fiber, you're gaining advantage of the whole lot of and most of the benefits of any fruit or vegetable is located in the skin or just below it. So don't peel your beetroot. Don't peel your apples. Don't peel your spuds. Eat the skins of all those.
Yeah, yeah. Right, so can I make beetroot juice from what we planted today? We planted the...
Yeah, what are they called?
Jesus fucking Christ! They have the circles, the dartboard ones.
Yeah, Darrow one, bullseye.
Bullseye beetroot, and we planted the standard one. Did we not?
The standard one, yeah, Egyptian. Remember? Yeah, because it's
yeah.
slightly drought tolerant.
So I can make beetroot juice.
You can make beetroot juices out of either of those.
Beautiful.
Yeah, and another point to touch on, right? The whole lot of that is edible, right? The beetroot leaves are in the same family as spinach, because remember you sowed the spinach leaves today,
Yeah.
and they look the exact same.
Yeah.
So the leaves are edible, and if you want to slow down a plant, you didn't want it, let's say, your huge garden or your raised bed, all of the beetroot to come out at the same time. You take off 1 or 2 leaves as it's growing and maturing, and that slows down those 2 plants.
Because they can't photosynthesize and feed themselves.
This man is not only good looking, he's also well educated.
Tell you what.
Look at this.
It's where I knew a guy.
he's doing night classes with me.
It's very expensive.
I am very expensive.
Go on, beetroot juice. So we can make beetroot juice from what we planted.
You can make beetroot juice from what you planted, and also the next item that we're going to hook you up with is the likes of a couple of different Irish traditional apples. So an apple tree. So you can make beetroot and apple juice flavoured smoothies,
Beautiful.
drinks, and they are 2 very, very easy crops to grow in Ireland. For the most part, every house in Ireland should have an apple tree. You do very little to it. You dig a hole or put it in a pot, and you're going to get fruit from it. You don't have to prune it. If you do nothing at all, and it will give you fruit, and an abundance of fruit after its 3rd year. You typically buy them 2 years old, 5 years old. It's fully mature.
Beetroots are seasonal as well?
Yes, yeah. We typically sow them you can sow them anytime from early spring, we'll say from February, all the way to September. And from that then it will take, and it changes because of the temperatures change in daylight hours. So it can take you 90 days or so to maybe sow a seed from beetroot to harvesting. But then you go closer to winter, it will take a little bit longer.
Okay. Oh yeah. Less sun,
Less
shorter
sun.
days. Yeah.
Heat, temperatures, and that's why people are like, how many days? When did you sow it?
Okay.
It's more specific.
Okay. We went off on a wild tangent there. So I had asked you about
The likes of, I'm going to say, foods in general, and about why people and may get, I'm going to say, chronic illnesses such as cancer, and how important it is literally to remember that foods can, I'm going to say, cure and help your current situation in your health, right? So when anyone is actually sick, and there's more and more people getting sick as the years go on, the idea is that foods that are sprayed with the likes of, I'm going to say, Roundup, or the perforated of, I'm going to say, the gardens are sprayed with Roundup, literally that's something that ends up in the water table, and as a result of that, remember, it's a carcinogenic, right? It causes inflammation in the body, and inflammation is the root cause of all diseases, and chronic diseases such as cancer is on the rise. So there are a lot of people now, even in my own immediate family, are suffering with it and finding benefits from going onto a much more higher organic diet. But even the more important point, it's one of the first things I want people to have in the morning. It's lining your stomach. Your gut has a massive part to play, with 70% of your immune system located in your gut. Not only the one that they typically do is 90 to 95% of your serotonin, that's your happy hormone, and is one of the reasons why I'm quite happy generally and positive, because of the foods that I eat. And if more people ate organic foods, they would have much less chance of being sick, and even chronically sick, and causing, I suppose, the idea of you going down the spiral of not being as happy and as healthy as you possibly can. So that's a really important point. And there's more people that I'm touching base with now and saying, Colman, because I found your page, it's really helped me and my family and my current situation with the illness that I have.
This is such an interesting conversation to me, because I come from a medical background, and the social media world is fuel on this particular fire, where you have the food can cure cancer narrative story, whatever you call it, and you have the really aggressive pushback from the medical industry saying that's a ridiculous story to tell people because people are dying because they're going to try and eat their way out of cancer. I think, is it not just a really, really smart approach to fill every possible chamber of resource and energy within your body, that if you have to fight a particular disease, whether it came from glyphosate or it came from some other environmental toxin, or it was genetic or whatever, would it not make sense to be as healthy a human being as possible going into any challenge? Break my leg, get cancer, whatever. It just makes sense that we shouldn't be having this argument. I understand why the medical community pushes back as part of that community, because there's a lot of snake oil out there. There's a lot of people trying to convince people that, let's conspiracy theory aside, that there is a big bad shadow monster out there trying to keep everybody sick, etc. Blah 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 blah. Whatever you believe about that, there's lots to explore in there. I won't go there right now, but if we just step back from this whole argument for a second, does it not make sense just to be as healthy and robust as possible for general health and life and energy and all that kind of stuff? But for fighting illness, you've more resources, you've more energy, you've more micronutrients. The argument is what turns a lot of people either left or right. They pick a side, they have to pick a side. It's either mainstream medicine and nothing else, or it's either fully organic and go off grid and heal your cancer with singing to the trees and eating raw onions. And that's how people view this conversation, because I speak to people who are like, they have a sick partner, they're like, should she go and just eat organic food? But the doctor says absolutely not. And there's no real mid ground where it's like, okay, well, do all of the good things. Ground, go for your walk, build better relationships, manage your stress, eat as healthy as you possibly can, give your body the absolute best chance. Then go and have a conversation with your medical professional, because then you're in the best position possible, whether you go down medical route or non-medical route. Thoughts?
Absolutely love it. I'm after writing down 3 bullet points there. There's loads to touch on. Right. So the first point is, like, getting recommendations from a doctor about nutrition advice isn't the first person I would ask, right? Because they only get, I'm going to say, about 25 to maybe 40 hours of training throughout their whole career, right? And for the most part, I actually also would like to stress this point. Getting advice from people that literally look healthy, that are healthy, is very, very important. And that's not only, I'm talking about doctors, but also in the health industry. This might kind of irks me. I don't really hate anything, as hate is such a harsh word, but people who say to do things and are not practicing what they preach, right? I eat healthy, I eat organic, I exercise, I recommend the best because I want the best for not only me, my family, and everyone else. If they did that, they would be so much better off. Food has a direct result. It has a direct impact on the way you look, the way you feel, and how much energy levels you have. Right? There's no one going to dispute that. Right? And moving on to the next point, is because about the pharmaceutical industry, nobody makes money off healthy people, right? People who pay $2.50 for a packet of seeds, who literally sow potatoes in their back garden, who literally are able to touch the soil and reduce inflammation, which has been proven to literally reduce stress, which is some form of healthy exercise, which I call the organic fitness lifestyle of going outside, doing stretching, walking, which is all part of a healthy lifestyle, and movement. So those are all key points for anyone who is looking for better health. Do the simple things, but people don't do the simple things. People don't walk. They literally live in a house that has underfloor heating. They go from the bedroom that literally has the electric blanket on in the winter. They go down, they put on the kettle, they have a coffee, they go into the car, they turn on the heating. They literally go from there into the office with the artificial light. They spend 6 to 8 to 10 hours there, go back in the car, turn on the heating again, go home, turn on the television, sit in front of the television, microwave pizza, whatever. That's generally it. Back up to the bed and rinse and repeat. And they wonder why they're getting sicker and sicker. We're not living anywhere near a healthy lifestyle of what we used to live 20, 30, 40 years ago. And I'm not saying to live in the dark ages. I have a smartphone in my pocket. I use all different gadgets. I don't typically use Bluetooth earphones myself personally, but that's because I want to be as healthy as I possibly can, and I do my own homework. And that's what I want people to do. Do your own homework and make up your own mind about what is healthy for you. Do people think that eating glyphosate sprayed or harshly sprayed chemicals from herbicides to pesticides on your food is going to improve your health? Probably not. And I would say no. So the idea is you do a little bit of homework, listen to this podcast, read a couple of journals from people you like, know and trust, or get information from a couple of different sources and make up your own mind from there that literally, oh yeah, maybe I could gain the advantage of eating a little bit better. Where does my food come from? Look at labels. Looking at labels even today in a shop that I was in. Fruits coming from Egypt. No, not fruits. It was spring onions coming from Egypt, right? They're probably one of the easiest things to grow in Ireland from a seed. We didn't sow them today because they take a little bit longer and you only get a smaller harvest as opposed to a normal and regular onion. Like, we can produce a huge amount of food for ourselves in Ireland, but we just need to open up our eyes to seeing the beauty of it, because when you taste it, you won't ever want to go back to the other 49-cent stuff.
It's 49-cent though.
Yeah, well,
I know I'm only playing devil's advocate here. I agree with you on all of this. And the reason I ask you, I think a lot of the arguments frustrate me, and I understand why they happen, because we're like, everybody has a different life experience, and we're very tribal, and we want to know what the right thing is, and there's a lot of information out there, and not all of it is for our good. And a lot of the time, as we talked about with the agricultural industry, a lot of it's an industry. So there's a bottom line and there's money to be made and all these different things. And the pushback against that frustrates me. The whole tinfoil, it's tinfoil, that's madness. There's truth in everything. And just eating healthy might not cure cancer, but not being healthy is almost a guarantee that you're not going to recover well from anything you come up against. So like, why are we even having this conversation? This is a ridiculous conversation. I understand there's challenges in the way for a lot of people to be healthy. It's environmental for some people. Some people genuinely have sick children and have to work 20 hours a day. Like, I get that, but the vast majority of people I hear talking about this are not those people. They're people who have the time, they have the resources, they have the energy, but we live a life of convenience. And again, I am not judging. I live a life of convenience. I just told you, sometimes I just cook a fucking pizza because I'm tired. Sometimes I don't make the healthiest food because I have a lot going on. I don't have the time for it. But my mindset is there are plenty of areas in my life that I can improve, and I will do everything I can with the resources that I have to try and improve. That's just how I like to do it. So watching a lot of the arguments frustrates me because people get really, really tribal, and it ends up not serving anybody really.
Yeah, and you're a healthy man.
I like to think so.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And life is what you make of it and what you think. So if you think you're healthy, that's exactly what you are.
Yeah.
The idea is most people are always going to point out a negative. Organic is expensive. I can't do this. I can't do that. I live in an apartment. It's miles away. There's no way that me and my family could survive on what you've just recommended to us here. A couple of potatoes, a few onions, a few strawberries, a few apple trees. Yes, the idea is it doesn't have to be perfect. Nothing is perfect. No fruit, no vegetable, or anything else in between. You just need to do your best to literally get the best food that you possibly can for you and your family.
I love it. What else did you write down when we were talking? Did you cover all those points?
I touched all those 3 points.
Did you touch
I touched on all 3 points. I even numbered them in my head as I was looking at them.
Okay, I love it. Beautiful. Okay, so let's stay, because there's been some really beautiful practical information here. If I was to start on this journey, right? We've covered some of this already, but if I was to start on this journey, if I'm interested and I haven't yet embarked, like me today, I am the subject here. But where would you recommend that most people start? The average person, is there a certain type of crop they could start with? We mentioned spuds already today. What's the lowest point of entry for the average person with a small back garden who wants to? Okay, this sounds good, Colman. Let's get cracking. Let's get started, because now is a great time.
Yeah, we're spring. We're
spring.
Full on spring. And to say what's the lowest entry point, they're all very...
The lowest hanging fruit, so to speak.
The lowest hanging fruit. We're looking for vegetables or fruit. So they're all very easy. It's just like anything. Do you know what I mean? Driving a car is very, very easy once you're shown how to do it.
Yes.
Yeah. Tying your shoelace, even easier once you're shown how to do it. Cycling on a bike, all the vegetables are easy to sow. You just need to ask the right person the right question to get the right answer. So if you ask me in a private message, I'd recommend you sow spinach, rocket, mizuna, radishes, potatoes, onions, garlics, leeks, carrots, apples, fruit bushes are definitely in my top 11 that I've listed off the top of my head. And the idea is you are going to go wrong, and that's how you learn.
Yes.
That's how you learn anything. And I'm going to flip it around. Why did you start necessarily?
Why did I start? Because you bullied me into it.
Like I do everyone else that really goes to my grow your own courses. But there must have been a grow for you, like, because no one will actually do anything unless they actually really want it deep down.
Yeah. So that was my question for myself. Do I actually really want this? Because I have all the now in the spot I'm in now. As I was so lucky, this guy left this stuff there. I literally had everything. It was laid out, ready to go. It wasn't just like space. He had the raised beds. He had the greenhouse at the glass house. So yeah, why you were the spark, you were the, like, because I could have said no to you, and there was obviously something in me, because I've always had an interest in this. I love the idea of it, the reality of it. I never got there. I never got to the reality of it. But for me, here's another 1% I can add to. It's not going to be perfect. I'm not going to just feed my family entirely on all this food, but it's a start. I'm going to learn off you. I'm going to have access to food. We're going to eat it. We're going to learn something about what it tastes like and how it feels. The kids are going to love it. And then I'll build off the back of that. And ideally, 80 will become 160 spuds, and I'll be able to make up 50% of my what I consume and what I eat will be grown in my own garden. I would love that. But the realities, that's why I keep playing devil's advocate here. Like, the realities for most of us are. And then as soon as I have that thought about it, I'd love to grow my own food, I'm like, I got to pay the bills then, and then I got this fucking thing on today, and this client needs this thing. And there's just a million distractions that take me away from that. So that's why I'm not trying to justify people not doing this, but I'm trying to empathize and say I have an active interest, and my background is health, and I like to stay healthy and fit, and I still haven't done this, so I understand how it can be difficult. And you come from a place where this is normal life to you.
Well, I'll touch on that point. I come from a background where my mother and father are psychiatric nurses.
Sorry, correct. Yeah,
so the idea is I went through 6 years of college straight to do a master's degree, and I didn't know what bolting is. If people are listening that know a little bit about growing, that's the idea where it goes to flower. I handed up my master's thesis. It's like your final year project, and it was something bolted. A salad bolted. And
what was the master's in?
Organic horticulture. My master's was in down in UCC in 2014 or 15. Probably graduated in 15, and as a result of that, I didn't know what that is. That's one of the basic terms of something going to flower, and I didn't know what it was. Handing up my project, and someone in the class, Jesus, literally put me in the stinker and was like, "Colman, that's bolted." Someone who was unbelievably well known at growing, and I was like, and only for someone saved me. Colman, isn't that because you just wanted to show not how all produce ever turns out perfect? And I was like, "Yes, Mark, thanks so much for saving me." And that was it. So I had no clue. I didn't sow my first seed until I literally had done that project for the master's degree. That's 10 years ago. Now, 10 years growing organically and know how to grow every different fruit and vegetable all over Ireland to help people to be more.
But your moment was in Australia eating that food and realizing you felt better. So that was the tipping point for you.
But my background is not in growing.
No.
My background is in a country setting where we played GAA, where we had vegetables from Tesco's and Lidl and Aldi's, like the majority of 95% of the listeners right here. Just to stress, I'm not the perfect. I grew up on a farm. As soon as I came out, my hand touched the soil. To be honest with
you, I'll use myself as an example. I don't have a background in podcasting or media or audio or anything like that, but I had an experience 5 or 6 years ago where this medium taught me so much, and then I had the why. Simon Sinek, start with why. Then I had the why. You had the why. You went to Australia, you had the condition, the skin, the health, you experienced what it was like, and then you were like, now I have a why. And you went on and carved this path. So I'm not suggesting that this was easier for you, but a lot of people don't ever have that why. And the why, the health world I worked in, I call it, say this all the time, the physical heart attack. People wouldn't change their diet till they had a heart attack. They wouldn't stop smoking until they went in with lung cancer. And then they had a why, because then they realized, oh, I am mortal. I nearly died. I want to live. And that was a why. But the frustration with everybody else seeing this person eat a certain way and have a heart attack, knowing they're eating the same way and not changing anything until they inevitably have the same heart attack, that's human nature, I think. So the reason I'm kind of being devil's advocate, it's because I know listening to this is amazing, and I'm always inspired, like listening to you and listening to these conversations. It's incredible. It's really inspiring. It's positive. It's uplifting. And the second I turn off my Spotify, something else jumps in at me and I'm like distracted completely. So I love trying to figure out how to, you've done it for me. You have literally, you could be the reason in 5 years' time we're sitting down and I'm teaching you about this new technique earlier. You could be that reason. So I'm lucky now. I've had another person in my network reach out and help me and inspire me. And by doing this, I'm hoping that this could do that for other people. But I'm just really interested in how do we create that environment where more people at the right time hear the right message and have access to the right tools and can change their lives and empower themselves. That's why I love doing this.
Yeah, well, I suppose that's my job and that's why I do it, right? And
Yeah.
I touched you in relation to getting it started. That's always the hardest part. You have kids, you have other family members that will come over, that will then taste the food and say, this tastes so much better. And that's literally what I'm trying to do.
Yeah.
I'm trying to get people to taste it, because once they taste it, they won't want to go back to the standard stuff. And then they get the bug. They want to sow a spud that also grows in a bucket. If you're literally someone who has very little space, you can get up in a growing course this time last year. A woman grew and had 32 potatoes from one spud that she put into a bucket. Okay, there was little things she did to boost up, as I mentioned to you as we were putting them in. Seaweed, you can literally add farm manure, again, which are free, or you can go to the garden centres and spend €20. Most people waste money. Let's talk about that. Most people waste money on coffee, which is hot water and bloody beans.
Do you not like coffee?
If I drank coffee, lads, where would we be?
Yeah. Decaf would be the way to go. Do you not drink coffee at all, no?
I don't drink coffee at all. I drank no more than 5 my whole life. Doesn't really suit me. I just don't like it. It's like, it wouldn't be tickling my fancy. I would much rather a kombucha.
Yeah.
I would
Okay,
much rather.
so this is good, right? I want to drill into this.
I'll go with this, yeah.
What you just said there is perfect. It illustrates what I'm trying to pull apart really well, because for anybody who's listening who enjoys coffee or relies on coffee, which is a big thing as well, like needs the coffee for the energy, that's a behavior and it's a habit. And for me to say to them, that's €3.85 or €4 you spent on that coffee. Think of how many organic onions you could plant for 40. How many organic onions could I plant for 45?
Oh, for €4 or €5?
Yeah.
75. That bag of netting that we had today is probably maybe less than €4.
Really?
Yeah, we didn't even sow the full pack today. So do you know what I mean? People are wasting money on water and coffee beans.
But that water and coffee beans to that person is important for some reason. It's a habit, which means it's going to be very hard to break, or it's a crutch, or it's an experience that they like, or a ritual. So like this thing about, like, because it's the whole thing about if you fucking didn't buy that coffee every day for 20 years, you could buy a Ferrari. Do you know all this kind of stuff? If you didn't drink your hot bean water, you could buy. But people are drinking the hot bean and water for a reason. People only do things if there's a reason for them to do things, because we're essentially very lazy. So unless there's some sort of motivating factor, and it could be positive or negative, like the drink. The motivating factor could be, I want to have a beautiful experience with my partner and drink a glass of wine, sitting on this boat, going down this beautiful river. Very positive motivating factor. The same glass of wine, I need this glass of wine, or else I can't talk to anybody at this wedding because I'm so nervous, and the same glass of wine. So but there's a motivating factor for both of those. People are drinking the hot bean water for a reason. So it's not just as simple, because I agree with you. I'm on your side, but I'm just being the context guy today for some reason. I'm being Mr. Devil's
Oh, you're doing great. And
do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I do. And a couple of will keep away from the percentages. A lot of people are drinking coffee for energy.
Yeah.
Food gives you energy. Organic food has more nutrients, and that's what gives us energy. Your body runs off proteins, fats, and carbs, and then after that, it's micronutrients. Organic food has higher micronutrients, has the same macronutrients, but it's those small little percentages every day that you add to your diet in the microgreens. Love that. In the spring onion in the potatoes or in the strawberries that helps you to have more energy, to be more productive, to improve on the likes of your sleep, to get a raise. And then if you get a raise, you have to split it with me and Dan here today, right?
And I love everything you're saying. The reason I'm asking these questions because I want you to say these things because, again, I agree. And that's my frame of mind. But I'm only asking the questions because if I don't, these are the things that are left unsaid that people might have to be like, well, sure, like I need my coffee because I need the energy. And if I give up my coffee, it's going to take 6 weeks, 8 weeks for me to start feeling the benefits of my Brussels sprouts and my potatoes and my healthy organic food. Whereas my coffee's going to give me the energy right now, Colman. And I'm a busy man. And I have to do all these things. And you know what I mean? It's those behavioral barriers I always found to be the issue. It's not everybody knows they need to eat better. Most people want to eat healthy organic food. Most people want to have 2 goats and a chicken in the back. I want to eat my own homegrown food, and it took you coming kicking down my door and saying, let's fucking do this. That's what it took for me to do this. So the resistance, I understand it, and it's behavioral. It's habit-based and behavioral. So I agree with everything you're saying. And what I'm really fascinated by is how do we help break down the behavioral stuff to give more people access to the practical stuff? Because the practical stuff, I love it. And now I have it, which is kind of amazing. I'm really interested. I'm going to have to keep an eye on myself now over the next 6 weeks. Can I manage my behaviors well enough to take care of the plants and to pot them the right way and to get in contact with you and to harvest them when the time comes?
I'll be on to you if you're not on to me.
This is the problem. I have a Colman in my life now, and I'm really lucky for that. Not everyone has a Colman in their life.
In fact, you actually do. I post every single day on social media. I give people more tips and free tips and better tips than some people's paid content. I now have an online platform where people can join if they want to do so, to gain the advantage of a monthly subscription where you are shown what seeds to sow. You are shown the spacing, you are shown the varieties. And that's the type of, I suppose, job that I have right now, to get people to realize all the information is there. If you want more specific, I give it to you more specific. Yeah. And the idea is, I'm here, you want it, you ask the right person the right question, get the right answer.
Yeah. I'm gonna stop hammering you now because I'm only saying this because I love all your answers. They're really, really important. And what I've learned over the years is you can only do your best. You can control the controllables. As Colman Power and Dan Campion and whoever's listening out there, the people who are ready will find your content when they're ready. They'll find you when they're ready, and they'll buy the first bag of seeds when they're ready. And until then, I don't know if there's much that someone like you can do except keep doing what you're doing. Keep being that positive influence, keep teaching, keep adding value to the world. I'll take this back, and you've already kind of drawn it for me there, but I draw this all the time on this podcast as well. But it's so applicable in so many conversations. Right, here's we'll go red because I'm probably red after all the sun I had today. There's Dan right over here, and I don't have a lovely oak brown for you, so we'll just go red for you as well, right? So here's Colman over here, and here's Jamesy from today, and here's Ian who's in next door, right? And I'm doing my best, and I'm living a little bit better, and I'm becoming a healthier person, and I'm trying to understand myself a little bit more. I'm trying to add value, I'm trying to contribute, I'm trying to build a community that I can really have an impact on, right, with my knowledge, and then I'm able to touch slightly more people and help and share. Here's Colman over here, and he's working away on his own self, and he's growing, he's becoming fit and healthy, and now he's building a community, he's helping other people. And here's James over here. So for people who can't really see, I'm drawing a bunch of circles. I've drawn these so many times before people will see. And at some point, there's going to be the people in the middle here who maybe aren't as fortunate as me or you or James, who maybe don't have the time or the resources or the money, or who do have those sick children or whatever. And we're going to start adding so much value and doing so much good stuff that we're going to encompass these people. And then there's also the people who are drinking their coffee, right? And they're over here. So I'll show people again if you're watching. They're over here. They're on their own. And they're drinking their coffee and they're doing their thing. And they know they should eat healthy and they know they get more energy. But at some point, Colman Circle is going to get big enough. And that message is going to resonate at the right time for that person drinking his coffee or her coffee. And she's going to go in. She's going to go, do you know what? I listened to that podcast with Colman today. Fuck it. I'm not going to buy the coffee. I've got my $3.85 today. I'm going to go buy my bag of onions. And I've learned that I think the only way that ever happens is if you keep doing your thing the way you're doing it. And if I stop overthinking, how do I get people to do all these things? And I just do it myself. My kids are going to see that. My partner's going to see that. My friends are going to see that. You're going to see that. You're going to be inspired by that. I'm going to be inspired by you. And we're going to start to increase our sphere of influence. And we're going to be able to help other people. That's what I think.
Yeah. No, I love that drawing.
Does that make sense?
I do. I love that drawing. It's such a simple model.
You can keep that.
Yeah, cheers. You sign it for me.
No, you pay extra for that. That's on the subscription model thing.
Oh my God.
But does that make sense? So I'm only hammering you with the context things today because I know your answers are so good. And it's, for me, that's my way of getting them out of you. But I agree with everything you're saying there. I love it. I love the approach you have. I love the positivity. I love how you're doing this. You're just doing your thing. You're out there. You're exuding this positivity. You reached out to me. There was no part of my brain that was ever going to say no to you, ever, literally ever, because of like this is. I'm in the space now. All I needed was that little bit of extra. Do you want
Coaching.
bit of help, bit of guidance, and I was ready for it. And then maybe at some point I'll give a spud to somebody and they'll be ready for it.
And that's why I get up at early o'clock in the morning, because I love the whole journey of, and this is a cool point. One of my friends who actually was helping me, I'm going to say, when I first started growing my first potatoes, and I actually were growing a purple potato called Purple Power. And yeah, cool. This year, that's nearly 10 years to the
Sounds
day.
like another type of plant that grows that you consume.
We'll keep it organic. And he
Can I have organic marijuana now?
Of course you can, Joe. We'll keep it strictly healthy.
Yeah.
Anyway, go back to that point of he handed me back a seed potato from the one I gave him years ago.
No way.
Unreal. I thought that was so cool. But I took a photograph. It's up there on social media somewhere. And I was like, oh man, that's cool. But that's bonding between two lads who sowed spuds 10 years ago. And him giving me the seed that literally has been grown in his plot. And he was like, I'm just giving it back to you. And I didn't, because I've moved locations 3 separate times from where I currently am living now today. And I was like, that's so cool. And I planted it this year.
That's a cool story.
That's a cool story. And that's what I want for more people to do. Just like you. I've given you your first red Duke of York and you saved the spuds. And as a result of that, give that to James there in 10 years' time.
I know what you're doing. You're helping all those dopes set up little plots. And you'll just travel around and we'll give you all the spuds and all the beetroots and all the strawberries to grow from all these feckin' plots. You have all of that. That's all I am. I'm a partner storm for you. You'll rock up to Dublin one day, but it's a bit fucking peckish. Dan, what's the crack? I was going to let myself in here around the back now and take a few spuds. And I'm like, yeah, of course. You showed me how to do this. You work away.
And I put my feet up, and then literally you bring on the potatoes, we bring out
the beetroot juice,
and we drink it from a champagne glass. And I put my little pinky up. Dan is onto me. It's out.
Is there anything that I have neglected from this conversation that you think is important that we share with people?
Is there anything we have covered a lot in?
It's bounced around, to be fair.
Yeah, it's bounced around. Yeah, but that's sometimes when people literally will tune into this, they'll pick up what they and whatever point that literally resonates with them, whether it's food, whether it's the nutrition point, whether it's the health, or it's keep on doing what you're doing to touch the person that literally might pick up on it at a later stage. I suppose, and I'm super grateful for you even having this platform to allow me to share it, because that's my whole ethos. We talked a little bit about this. I've been sharing this message, started 10 years ago, and I'm going to be going another 10 years. Like, the only thing I want people to do is, and must get them to realize, is you have to be consistent, right? Nothing grows without water. You have to water it every day. Nothing gets healthy without you really getting up and walking or getting outside. You have to do the day-to-day stuff, because I can do all the sowing the seeds with you today, but if you don't pick up the pace by next week, you can't have a successful crop. Just like you can't have a successful health and career if you don't literally look after the foods that you're eating, or the lifestyle, or the exercise program. You have to literally sow the seed today and look after it to gain advantage in the future.
It's so funny because it's such a beautiful metaphor for everything else. I'm just thinking that's a metaphor for life, for business, for whatever you're doing. It's the same thing. Sow the seed, water the soil, harvest the crop. Share the love.
That's it.
Share the love. I love it, my man. I think we already agreed this. I'm not just saying this. We're going to come back. So in about 6 weeks' time, we're going to go and harvest some of the crop that we planted.
Yep, definitely. Yeah.
What do you think is going to be ready?
The Mizuna will definitely be ready.
The Mizuna, which is the Oriental salad.
Yeah, so we'll be having some type of salad. So stay tuned for that. Beautiful salads.
Do you use sauces and stuff like that, or are we like strictly balsamic vinegar and olive oil?
We've got Mediterranean now. Oh, you could add in stuff. Do you know what I mean? But it'll be important, and stay tuned for this. We'll literally get other local produce to make a full meal, as opposed to, because we're not fully self-sufficient just yet.
Yeah.
But yeah, maybe Dan, we're talking about chickens. And
I've actually genuinely talked about chickens.
Yeah, there we go. We tell the truth on these podcasts. We've been lying the whole time. There's no spud sowing at all. We wiped our hands in muck before we came here.
Comment the Glyphosate salesman.
Jeez, we murder. That bit will be cut out and it'll go. My eyes lit up. So yeah, no, we will. That'll be cool.
Yeah, so we're gonna do, and we'll probably have some sort of conversation as well at that point. I'll fill everybody in on my growing journey if I've stayed accountable, which I will. I'll stay accountable. We'll talk about that. We'll do a bit of cooking and stuff like that, and tell the good people where, if they want to start on their journey themselves. You obviously are professional in the space as well. You offer some coaching. You offer some guidance. Tell the people where they can find you and maybe engage with what you do.
Yeah, I suppose, thanks for giving me the opportunity to share that. So my social media platforms, I make it as simple as I possibly can for people to reach out to me. It's Colman, Colman, no E in there, Power after that, and Organic Fitness. You type that into Google, my website will come up. I do different retreats. My next big retreat is the 18th of May. I'm also doing a full weekend in Mitchelstown in Barnahown in County Cork, and that's a full organic fitness weekend away with your foods, all organic, all regenerative, handed up to you from breakfast to lunch to dinners and snacks in between with growing nutrition and exercise. It's my first solo retreat, and I'm really, I suppose, delighted that I went out my own, and just like that. Do you know what I mean? I feel like I'm only starting now, but I actually started 10 years ago, and that's, I suppose, what I currently do. I also do nutrition and exercise online. I have different communities of growing your own subscriptions that people can avail of, and all available on the likes of my website or my Instagram or my TikTok or my YouTube or my podcast that's out every Thursday. So I have a couple of different options for people if they would like to check those out on Colman Power Organic Fitness.
Amazing. And what we haven't actually mentioned is, despite the fact that you're doing all this incredible work, you're all over the country, you're coming to my house to plant making potatoes, you're posting 3 times a day on social media, you're doing a podcast every single Thursday.
Every Thursday, yeah.
Last 5 years, you're putting out an incredible amount of really useful content. But more than that, it's extremely positive content as well. Anybody who have ever asked, Colman Power, a lot of organic growing and fitness and stuff, and they're like the really, really positive guys. Like, that's the one and only.
The really positive guy. I love that. That's kind of the.
It's out there.
Yeah, good. And too right, it's out there. I've been putting it out there, and do you know what I mean? You cannot get gain the advantage of something you do not do. And I've been putting it out there, putting out a positive message, putting out a healthy message. It's becoming more and more fine tuned, and things are just starting to, I'm going to say, go in the right direction for me, because it wasn't always easy. Just like at the start of your growing career, or your personal career or your current job, the idea is it's never easy at the start. You make loads of mistakes. You have loads of failures. In fact, you have more failures than you have to success, and that just leads to a successful crop at the other side of it if you keep on, I'm going to say, trucking or digging. And you brought up that analogy just before I think we recorded the podcast. It's most people, literally, that image of that miner who's digging. He's been digging for 6 years, and as a result of that, he's just about to find the diamond, and he says, you know what, I'm giving up, I'm going home. Right? I'll never give up. I'm not going home.
We're not fucking leaving. The Wolf of Wall Street, Leo.
And I hold the spoon up there. Love that part.
I can actually vouch I spent the day with this man now, and this doesn't change. This is not an act for the podcast. Like, it's genuine. It's lovely. It's been a pleasure to spend the day with you today. It's been a pleasure to chat with you. I really love what you do. I'm very grateful for you sharing this with me. This is something that hopefully will be in my family now. So by sharing this with me, you've shared this with my family, my kids, my friends. So I'm genuinely very grateful for that. I'm really excited. Do you know what? I can already feel it. I want to go home and see it in sprouts already. We planted it fucking 2 hours ago, and I'll be out there. Is there? I'll get the kids on rotations watching to see if it sprouts. But thank you so much for your time today. Really appreciate you reaching out. Really appreciate the conversation. Really appreciate you coming to my house and helping me start the organic revolution in Swords. And I'm buzzing for 6 weeks' time. We get to sit down and do it again.
Perfect. Thanks, Dan, for having me.
Thank you very much.